The Gameday Broadcast Network is proud to present Gameday All-Access worldwide online at GamedayMagazine.com with host Andy Hayes.
He's got some running room for him. Makes a cut. Past midfield. He's gone. 30, 20, 10. Goal line. Touchdown.
And Bruce Bornarth.
Jet down the sidelines. Get zone. Touchdown.
Gameday All-Access is proudly presented by Integrated Sports Medicine and Physical Therapy. Get back in the game of life, the game on the field. Manhattan Pizza, now serving Ashburn, South Riding, and Leesburg with the best dang pizza in the world. By Max Muscle Sports Nutrition. Max Muscle, partners in health. By Online Mental Trainer, Optimal Thinking, Champion Results. Visit ReadWriteTechnology.com. Verizon Wireless, the exclusive wireless network of the Gameday Broadcast Network. Gameday All-Access. Become a Gameday MVP member today and never miss another big game. Phenom Strength and Conditioning, where athletes train to exceed expectations. You've now been granted a Gameday All-Access pass. Now let's join the worst prognosticators in high school sports on the Gameday Broadcast Network.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Gameday All-Access. I'm Andy Hayes, joined alongside Bruce Bornarth, Ben Simpson, and it is time for the second season. The playoffs begin this week. We've got some great ones lined up for you here online at GameDayMagazine.com, and with that, I welcome in the incumbent and the challenger. We called you last time, you know, maybe the retiree and the up-and-comer this time. What do you think?
Retiree? What? Am I getting forced out already?
People are trying to take you to the pasture and get rid of you. I mean, they're tired of the green grass and high tides call, apparently. I've had some tweets about it. Actually, somebody called out and said, Bruce needs a Twitter handle. So shall we set that up this
Triple
week?
B. I told you just...
But you want me to set it up for you?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So then I have to run it? Is that what you're saying?
Well, then you have to teach me how to work it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Which could be a big problem.
I could get myself in trouble if I get out there tweeting.
Yeah, and you probably get me in trouble too. All right, big week last week. Let's hit the rewind button and look back at some of the big games that we had in the last week of the regular season. And you know, the one that stood out here that we'll get to at the end was the great thriller up in the Battle of Purcellville. Woodgrove, Loudoun Valley was a great finish up there. We'll talk about that at the end. But let's talk about Stonebridge. They lock up another 10-win season. Mickey Thompson's program throughout the years has done this more than anybody else in the state of Virginia, and they lock up a 10-0 season. Bruce, pretty impressive here. They jump on Fairfax, and they got after him pretty good.
You know, and I say this fairly often, but you know, Stonebridge is so good and have been doing it for so long that it seems like people maybe start to take advantage of what's going on over there and not really paying attention to just how good they are.
Yeah, and they continue to play great defense, which I think is the big reason why they have a chance to win a state championship here. Fairfax did put some points on them, though. It was a little surprising. I thought, you know, maybe that was an issue late in the game against some reserves, but Nick Scott has proven to be a formidable guy to stop here for guys, you know, this season. So Fairfax, tough break. They don't get in the playoffs. They're right on the outside looking in. Stonebridge is the #1 seed coming up in the Division 5 Northern Region playoffs. They will host Edison here this week. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Broad Run with a solid win over Freedom to finish the season off at 5-5. They too finish on the outside looking in. They needed Brook Point to lose their game, and Brook Point actually ended up winning. And so Broad Run got squeezed out in that 7th spot. And the one advantage for the Northern Region teams, 8 teams make the playoffs. The disadvantage for a team like Broad Run, only 6 get in. That's tough, isn't it, Ben?
Yeah, it's really tough. And we were following this on Game Day Final as the story was kind of developing. We saw Broad Run get the win. We were seeing what was going to happen in the other game. And that hurts because Broad Run did their end of the things. They had to get this win. And it's so hard when you're depending on another team to try to either lose or win a game for you. And that's what happened to Broad Run here. So, I mean, good on for them for finishing the season strong, but their season's over now.
Yeah, tough job here for Coach Griffiths. Now he's got to rally the troops, get them ready to go for next year, right? So they start training, I'm sure, this week. They get in the weight room. They start talking about 2013, and Broad Run does have some outstanding talent coming back. So this is a little bit of a down year. They'll probably turn it around next year. All right, moving on. How about this game here? Chantilly Robinson. And we thought this game would be real close. A couple turnovers kind of gave Chantilly the edge defensively. They were able to get up in this game, and they pulled away for a 20-point win. And, Ben, when we look at Chantilly now, they've got to come back and play Robinson this week. This is an interesting matchup because it's tough to beat a team twice. We'll talk about that inside the huddle.
It is tough, and especially how close this game was for a while. I mean, the second half was when Chantilly had that separation. They outscored Robinson 17-7 in that second half. But to come back and try to beat this team again, that's going to be the question. That's going to prove a lot about the Chantilly team. We see them get some big wins. They had a huge win last week. Harris, big in this game, 2 TDs. Sims had a couple TDs. Romine was in there as well. But Wilson's going to be the story for this second game. He was the only player to score in this game for Robinson, had 3 rushing touchdowns. Can Joe Wilson get this team even a couple more? But he's going to need some help on defense especially. He did his job last game, the defense not so much.
Yeah, and I think the one thing you got to know about Robinson, and Bruce will tell you about the roller coaster, but the one thing you don't want to see is Robinson in the playoffs all of a sudden have that game where they're hot. And that's the kind of team they are. They can come out and beat anybody in the northern region on any given night. But they can also lose to anybody if they don't take care of the football, which is what happened in this one, and they allowed Chantilly to make some big plays. So that's got to be a concern for Chantilly. They got the benefit of the turnovers here this past weekend, but if they don't get it this weekend and Joe Wilson gets hot, look out.
Well, I'll give you that. But if you take Chantilly and you combine the last 2 seasons, then I think you can say almost the exact same thing about Chantilly. They might be one of those teams that if they get hot, they have talent that you might not want to play in the playoffs. So if you're Robinson, this game flips from Robinson last week to Chantilly this week, which could make a big difference. And there may be some weather coming in this week.
Yeah, the pressure certainly now goes on to Chantilly's shoulders, right? Everybody expects them to win. They expect maybe a 20-point victory like the last time. You know, tough to beat a team twice in 1 week. All right, Centerville had a great game against Oakton, especially in the second half. They exploded for a huge amount of production on offense. A.J. Turner with a big game, 5 touchdowns. He's our athlete of the week here this week. And the one thing we know about Centerville, when number 23 touches the ball a bunch, they score a bunch. And Centerville pulled away from Oakton. They're a scary team, I think, because of their athletes. And A.J. Turner, what can you say about him? He has made a case for Player of the Year, hasn't he, as a sophomore?
Well, as a sophomore, he certainly is among the best running backs in the area. And if they get whether or not on that turf field, which a lot of the Fairfax County schools aren't, Centerville has at home, that could be the difference in there. You're going to have to stop him. Centerville, another one of those teams that any given week can beat anybody, but has had a couple of weeks this season where you kind of scratch your head and you're going, what happened? You know, they didn't play up to par.
Yeah, and the one thing you got to look at here is they're getting ready to take on West Potomac, a team they lost to early in the season. The health of DeMornay Pearson-L, that's the big question coming into this game. Will he be able to play at full speed? We don't know that right now. All right, final game to talk about before we get to the thriller out in Purcellville. Briarwoods rolls Loudoun County. Not a surprise for anybody here on this set, but some people thought this was going to be a Dulles District heavyweight bout. Problem is really nobody can match up with Briarwoods, and they showed that here, 45-0. Bruce, you guys both called this game. Defensively, they must have put the lockdown on the Raiders.
Well, and so did the Raiders. When that game started, both teams, 3 possessions in a row, went almost 3 and out. Briarwoods on their first possession went, I think, for 12 yards, got a first down. Then they went 3 and out. They went back and forth, 3 and out. Then County fumbled on their own 9. Briarwoods scored. That led to the first score of the game. And if you're a championship caliber team like a Briarwoods, then you capitalize on that. They put the pedal to the metal and did not look back after that. Defense just played lights out. Kid named Mitch Chris Falusi had the game of his career that I have seen him play. That kid can play corner.
Well, the thing that I said on Game Day Final after the show, after the ball game, was that really nobody has a shot against these guys. And you know what? That kind of stinks to say that to the rest of Division IV. But if you've seen Briarwoods play enough, and we have, nobody really should beat them unless they don't play their A game.
Yeah, you're right. And Thomas Emmerich posed me that question. Game Day finally asked me, if you could pick one weakness for this team, what would it be? I couldn't come up with one. I ended up just coming up with some kind of an answer just so I could get him to be quiet. But there's really no weaknesses. And me and Bruce both saw again in this game where things were slow to start, but when Briarwoods needed to turn the offense on, that's exactly what they were able to do. And for County, that first turnover, you have to play perfect football if you want even a shot to beat a BRIAR Woods.
Right.
And have it fumbling there near your own goal line, that just can't happen.
Yeah, it's just a big discrepancy between BRIAR Woods and everybody else. We'll see how the Falcons now get into the postseason. They got a tough first-round game against Powhatan. We'll break that down here a little bit later on when we start talking about the playoff matchups here. Final game to talk about here, and for the second consecutive year, what a thriller out in Purcellville. The Battle of the Ville, as they call it out there. Woodgrove over across town at Loudon Valley. Kevin Burke had the call in this game, and Chris Barrasso was his partner here this past week. And let me tell you, the one thing we know about these two teams when they play, number one, great fan support, incredible stuff. You got to go see the video that we put out on our YouTube page from our buddy Pete Rush here, who's working at Game Day again, doing a great job with some of these promotional videos. Phenomenal, capturing the essence of the rivalry. Really was a great deal. Secondly, Josh Sweet with the touchdown at the end of the game, and Woodgrove celebrates on Valley's field. That's going to sting a little bit here for the Vikings. But the good part is both teams are in the playoffs. Woodgrove has to go down to see Loudoun County, a team that probably will be a little angry this week. And Valley travels up to Skyline, who's the #1 seed in the Division III playoffs. The one big thing that came out of this game, aside from a great win for Mike Skinner and his club at the end, is they lost their quarterback, Tucker Coyle. Broke his leg, had to go to the hospital. We hope he's okay. But that's a tough injury. I mean, here's a guy that's taking all the snaps, primarily behind center, and now you go in the postseason, and you don't have that guy. That could be a huge deal, don't you think, Ben?
It's going to be a huge deal, and both these teams have tough first-round matchups, so we don't really necessarily know what's going to happen for both these guys. They might be done after this first round, but that's a huge blow. Losing a guy like Coyle, I mean, if there's already a tough game, but losing him makes it even tougher.
Yeah, and I think certainly the odds are against both Woodgrove and Valley, but they have something special brewing up there in that rivalry. That is unique.
Well, here's both the good news and the bad news for Woodgrove. If you're Woodgrove, from a quarterback standpoint, they are a run-first team. They are huge on the line of scrimmage. Now, so they rely more on the run than they do on the pass, so that bodes well for them in the playoffs. The bad news, they're up against Loudoun County in the first round. Loudoun County's defensive front four is just shut down. You cannot run the middle against the Raiders. That's not going to happen. So if they have to go back and resort to the throwing game or try to get the ball to the outside, that's going to be trouble for Woodgrove.
Yeah, you wonder if Woodgrove learned from the first disappointing loss to Loudoun County. That's going to be the big thing. We'll break that game down here coming up. That's it for our first segment here on Game Day All Access. We hit the rewind button now. We look ahead. We'll be back with Inside the Huddle here in a few moments right here on the Game Day Broadcast Network.
Hey Hayes, high school football's back. Who's going to be the best team in Ashburn?
I don't know, Carl. I'm not touching that one either, buddy. That's highly controversial right now.
Hey, didn't you win a Picks of the Week last year?
Yeah, that's accurate, Carl. Hey, it's hard to be a champion. I'm working hard in the offseason here to repeat this fall.
Hey, I heard a rumor that your producer, Helene, is the one that wins that every year.
You know what they say about rumors, Carl? Only some of them are true.
So what's it going to take, Hayes, for you to defend your championship?
Well, the thing is, Carl, only a select few have what it takes to be a champion, and the knowledge of how they get to that point is highly proprietary. I can't share that with you.
Yeah, whatever.
High school football fans, don't miss Game Day All Access each week online at GameDayMagazine.com. Dive into the area's best storylines and break down the biggest games to get you ready for the Friday night lights. Game Day All Access, weekdays online at GameDayMagazine.com. There's only one Game Day.
4G LTE has the fastest speeds. So let's talk about coverage. Based on this chart, who would you choose?
Wow.
Just take a minute.
Verizon, hands down.
I'm going to show you guys another chart.
Pretty obvious.
I don't think color matters.
Pretty obvious. What's pretty obvious about it?
Verizon has the coverage. Verizon.
Verizon.
We're going to go to another chart.
It doesn't really matter how you present it.
I tell you what.
It doesn't matter how you present it. Verizon. More 4G LTE coverage than all other networks combined.
We're back here on Game Day All Access. I'm Andy Hayes, joined alongside Bruce Bornarth and Ben Simpson. On Election Day, that's when we're filming this here, hope you went out and voted. I voted. Did you vote?
I voted.
Ben?
I voted, yep.
So we've all taken care of our American job here this week to vote for the next president and also the elected officials in our Senate and so forth and governor, whatever. At the end of the day, it's important. And all you kids out there watching, Don't be somebody that says, I don't think I'm going to vote. Vote. It's your voice. Don't give up your voice.
I like the way you said that. Exercise our duty. I believe that voting is more than a right. I believe it's a constitutional duty that we have and owe it to our countries to vote. And I mean, if you don't vote, then shut up and don't complain.
Yeah, and the other thing is if you do vote, don't brag about it on Facebook. I'm tired of all my Facebook friends. Everybody wants to get rid of their friends on Facebook. That's the only problem. But now that the election is about to be over, we can all be friends again. All right.
I'm just getting used to Facebook, and now you want me to get rid of that and go tweet?
You're the worst. I keep getting all these weird deals from you on computers. I don't know what's going on. Somebody's hacked your Facebook page. All right, Ben, time for Inside the Huddle. Let's talk about the hot topics when the playoffs come into town this week and everybody gets ready for the second season. You know, there's some topics we got to discuss. Buy or sell today.
Definitely. Pretty good topics here for this show. Starting off, will a top seed fall in the first round of the playoffs?
Well, I'm buying that. I think somebody's going to go down. I think somebody's going to go down. Listen, it's going to happen. Whether it's in the northern region, Division 5 or 6 ranks, probably not. But when you get down in the lower levels, you go down Division 3. And you could see potentially a Valley team give Skyline a problem. I mean, they're not,
now,
that's not a...
I want clarification here. Are we talking about, is any higher seed a home team going to lose? Are we talking about a number 1 losing to a number 8 or number 6?
Well, no, you can't just say number 1s. But, I mean, a top seed, which means the higher-ranked team is going
you get in a 4-5 game in an 8-team tournament, one of those is going to be an upset.
Well, I just answered.
What kind of softball question is this?
I'm trying to help you, Bruce. You're a little older than I am. We're trying to help you out a little bit.
What the question should be, is a number 1 seed going to lose to an 8 or a 6?
Not many chances on that front, but there may be 1 or 2. Don't be surprised. That's what happens in the second season.
Yeah, the only chance I possibly thought of 1 seed falling is, as you mentioned, that Skyline Valley game. Could be interesting. Moving on, buy or sell. Beating a team twice in 1 week, too tough.
There's 2 trains of thought on this. Bruce will probably give you the opposite of me just because he likes to argue with me. But I'll say it is tough. Because all the mistakes you made in the first meeting, you get a chance to go back to the film room and correct them. So then you're a better football team coming back the second week. And if you are a decent team already, fumbling the ball a couple times like Robinson did against Chantilly, you can make that change. You can hold on the ball a little better this time. That changes the whole dynamic of that ball game. So it becomes tougher for the team that won to maintain what they did in that first game, in my opinion. That's how I see it. It's tougher. Motivational-wise with the coach, it's also tougher.
Well, I think a big factor that plays into that is in the first game, did the favored team win? What were the circumstances? Was it a big upset? If it's a big upset, then obviously it becomes that much tougher to beat the team the second time. If we'll call it the higher seed, wins the regular season game at the end of the season and goes in the first round of playoffs and plays that team over again, I don't think it is as tough, because usually, as in the case with Chantilly Robinson, which I think is the only back-to-back games we have this year, it was at Robinson at the end of the season. Chantilly's a higher seed. This game's at Chantilly this time. So I don't think it's that much tougher, especially when you have 2 familiar teams like that. I don't think it's all that tough. But having said that, you look over history. It's happened, 3 times very recently. You had County and Briarwoods. Briarwoods winning that one. You go back a few years, you had Parkview Broad Run. That one switched. Broad Run winning the last game, going 10-0. Parkview winning the playoff game. So I don't know. I kind of like the favorites, especially when you get in a 6-team or an 8-team tournament.
You don't think it's going to matter? Chantilly's, you're saying they don't have a problem this week. They could do the same thing to Robinson.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we could have just moved on to the next question. My goodness.
All right, let's move on to that next question.
By the way, it's not hard to beat you in the picks of the week every single week. That's never an issue. So it hasn't bothered me all year long.
I won 8-0 5 weeks in a row. I mean 8-2.
Problem is we have 10 games. Right.
All right, moving on. Will the rematches, will they offer any surprises this year?
They could offer some surprises. I'll tell you one game you got to get your eyes on is that Liberty-Sherando game. It was close. It was 14-6. And that's a game that's always close. And so you can maybe see Liberty shock Sherando. It's possible. I mean, that's a game you got to think about. Now, Warren County and Kettle Run. That's another intriguing rematch right there. Warren County is kind of flailing here at the end of the season. And, for Kettle Run, they were able to beat Warren County. That game was close. And so now you look at Kettle Run, and the pressure's on them. Warren County's coming to their place. So I think that's a game you got to kind of look at as well. And I think the other one is Centerville West Potomac, right? Will Centerville show that they're a better team now than they were at the beginning of the season? West Potomac caught them. They caught a young Centerville team early. Will they show that they've really grown up? I don't know. Because I don't think West Potomac's really taken that next step after beating Centerville. But Centerville's clearly improved, in my opinion.
Well, I think that the best of the bunch in these rematches is going to come in Divisions 3 and 4 in AA. That Woodgrove Loudoun County game that we talked about, that flip a coin. That you could make an argument and make a case that that game could go either way. It could either be tight and one of the two teams would win. It wouldn't really surprise you. It could be a blowout one way or the other, and I don't think it would be that much of a surprise. And I like it because you see more and more of these rematches as the regions, as the districts grow and you get more local teams in it. So I think the only one that really jumps out of the area is that Briar Woods Powhatan game. Everybody else is from right local.
You got MILLBROOK Tuscarora playing too, which is
local.
It's local, but that's the first game of the year for both teams, right? So that was a game that we saw Tuscarora dominate up front. Will that change? I don't think so.
Also an intriguing storyline is if Centerville goes on a run, could we see a Westfield-Centerville regional final again? They're on opposite sides of the bracket. Westfield maybe trying to get some revenge from last year. Moving on, buy or sell, running the football is key to postseason success.
This is the key, in my opinion. The teams that win championships can run the ball on anybody. And we can go back and look at Oscar Smith and last year, and people say, well, they throw the ball a lot. Well, if you really looked at them, they run the football equally as great as they throw it. J.C. Coleman's having a great year at Virginia Tech, for a freshman. So, go back and watch his clips. But the bottom line is this. The great teams are good up front. I think that's what you're really saying when you say you got to be able to run the ball. Is you got to have an offensive line that can move the line of scrimmage and can hit you in the mouth for 4 quarters. We've got some teams up here that can do that. And that's why they have a shot at winning a state title. Briar Woods being one. Certainly Westfield has to be thrown in there. They may have the best offensive line. Battlefield's a team that really has a good offensive line. So you got to look at them here as the playoffs get going. Stonebridge has shown they can run the ball as well. The favorites every year have a great running game. So I'm buying that all the way. It is the key, in my opinion.
I'm selling it. I think the key, as always has been in sports, is defense. I think there are 2 huge keys in the playoffs. One is you got to be able to play defense, stop the other team, and put your offense in good field position. You got to flip the field around, force a lot of 3-and-outs in the game. I think the second key is mistakes, whether it be penalties, dumb penalties, and turnovers, I think are the key in playoff games. I don't think it's so much running, being able to run the football. I think it's more being able to stop the run and eliminate the mistakes, whether they be penalties or turnovers.
You still got to score. Even if you get field position, you still got to score.
Definitely, Bruce, Briar Woods, if we're talking defense, I believe they have 4 straight shutouts, too, to finish off this season. So if they're looking to try to continue that defensive stand moving on, does coaching win playoff games? Do you buy or sell this?
Oh, I'm buying this all the way. I really think this is where you see great coaching come into play. Now, you got to have great talent, too. But there are some key times in playoff games where it's not easy. I mean, I sympathize with these coaches going for it on 4th down. Remember a few years ago, Mickey Thompson had a 4th and 3, against Phoebus. This was 07. And he came out and they drew him offside and so forth. But, there's just those times in a game where you kind of go, man, what are they going to do? Are you going to kick a field goal or are you going to go for it, down 7? I mean, there's just times where you know that coaching does impact the outcome. And I really feel like that this is where these guys earn their stripes as head coaches. It's in the postseason.
As much as I love to argue with Andy, I'm not even going to try to make a case on the other side. I think you have to buy this all the way, especially at the high school level and especially with what we've just been talking about, so many rematches. I think it becomes motivation. It becomes what little wrinkle or what can you do that maybe this other team hasn't seen before, especially against a team that you've already played and maybe played them late in the season and it might have been a very tight game. We had this conversation not too long ago that you take most of the high schools in the area, and I would bet 8 out of 10 of them, if you lined up player for player, athlete for athlete, the talent is very comparable across the board. So what becomes the difference? It's coaching. In high school, you're not supposed to recruit. There's not a lot of recruiting that really goes on in high school. In college, you can recruit and pick your team. in the pros, you certainly draft and pick your team. In high school, you play the hand that's dealt to you. And I guarantee you, if you were to do a coaching shuffle around here of the top guys in the area and you give them the bottom programs, it won't be long before they're back at the top.
That's a good point.
I'll agree with both of you guys. I think it's definitely, especially at the high school level, like Bruce said, coaching is going to be the difference here.
And one quick point on that. You know, the rematch is coming up. That's where coaching comes into play.
Yeah.
Because now you do have to change things up a little bit. Not your core, but you got to do some things like we've seen Mark Cox do the last couple of years at Battlefield when they go up against Hilton the second time. It's like he's running a different offense. They stopped it the first time. They can't stop it the second time. You got to add those wrinkles like Bruce said.
Definitely going to be some tweaks with some of these rematches. Yep. Final buy or sell question here. Does the postseason exposes pretenders? Buy or sell?
Oh, big time. I mean, I'm buying that all the way. The postseason shows all of your flaws because now it's win or go home. And we see it every year. If you're a pretender and you're in the playoffs, you're going to be gone in week 1. If you somehow survive, you'll be gone in week 2. Only the strong survive. And this is where all that stuff gets squeezed out. So if you're part of that, where you're kind of just, you know, pretending a little bit, enjoy your last week of practice.
You know, every week there's a question that I just kind of squirm on that fence and try to figure out which way to go. This week, this is that question. I think if you're going week 1, there are usually very few upsets since they've expanded the tournaments to, again, 6 and 8 teams. I think as you get into week 2 and beyond, you got to buy it a little bit more. I think that a pretender, and I'm not talking about a 1 versus 8 or 1 versus 6, but you get those, you know, 3 and 6 seeds in the 4 and 5 games and all, then you can squeak through.
I mean, let's go ahead and throw them out there. I'll put you on the spot. Who's going to get exposed this week? Who's the one team that has to be careful? Who's on upset alert right now?
Well, we'll do that when we get into picks.
All right, fine.
There are a lot of teams I think they're on upset alert. You look at the picks when we get to it. I've only taken one road team.
I'm telling you right now, there's some teams that probably don't deserve to be in the playoffs, even with winning records right now.
We should add the question, who's on upset alert this weekend?
Well, we'll talk about that. All right, that's it for Inside the Huddle. Thank you, Ben. Nice job. We'll be back here with more on Game Day All Access right after this.
GameDayMagazine.com is your source for high school sports. Game Day offers unprecedented broadcasting, including local high school football. Members can watch games live or catch the excitement at their leisure with on-demand action of area teams. There's daily coverage, in-depth analysis, and over 250 live and on-demand games. Visit GameDayMagazine.com for unprecedented coverage of high school football. Game Day, your team, anytime. GameDayMagazine.com.
Trust is one of those things that's earned, and at Max Muscle we're really very concerned about the relationship we have with individuals, whether they're the student athlete, their parents, coaches, administrators, because we take very seriously that commitment to children. What we're doing is saying help your student, your athlete, your coach, your parent become healthier. And our message is about nutrition, and fundamentally it's about eating. Stop in and talk with us. We're definitely going to talk a lot about nutrition. We want to educate the student, the athlete, the parent, answer any questions, and get that athlete started on the road to success.
Find a Max Muscle Sports Nutrition store near you or online at maxmuscle.com.
Welcome back to Game Day All Access. Andy Hayes alongside Bruce Bornarth, Ben Simpson here. Time now for our picks of the week, gentlemen. And it's starting to get down to where we only have a few weeks left. Bruce, you're running out of time. Ben is already out of the equation. And he's way back there just like you are. Any plans?
I'm not way back.
Any strategy? Well, you're way back.
What do you mean strategy? Pick winners.
Yeah, exactly. You haven't done a lot of that recently here. But now maybe you can turn it around. You got a little time here. Playoffs give opportunities. That's how we say it.
Check the record.
All right, let's start with our first game here. Robinson at Chantilly. The drama of playing the same team twice. It's not a lot of fun, I don't think, as a player, to turn around and have to see the same team again on Friday night. But you don't have a choice. And if you want to keep playing, you got to beat them. For Chantilly, it's about replicating what they did a week ago. For Robinson, it's about fixing the mistakes, cleaning it up, and beating Chantilly on their home turf. Who wins?
I'm going to make this real easy for you. On this whole scenario, and all the picks that we have this week, was there 10 of them? I've only got one road team winning, one lower seed in the whole ball of wax, and this isn't it. I'm taking Chantilly at home. I like Chantilly at home. I like the way they're playing in the season. They don't like the way the season ended last year, did the Chargers, and I really like that they are playing well now at the end of the season as opposed to last year. We talked about who's on upset alert. I think when we get done, we'll talk about it again. But everybody on the list, I think, except 2 games, I've got on upset alert.
I'm going the complete opposite of what Bruce said. I think Robinson fixed the mistakes. Again, that game last week against Chantilly was a game, like Bruce mentioned earlier, if you fix those mistakes, I think Robinson had a great shot to beat Chantilly in that game. I think Wilson has a big day. Robinson gets the win.
Look, I'd love to agree with Ben, but I can't. And I hate to agree with Bruce, but I have to. So here's the deal. Chantilly, I picked him a week ago. I'm going to pick him again. I'm going to tell you why. Sonny Romine. He's the difference in the game. The ability to throw and run will be why Chantilly wins this ballgame. All right, Warren County at Kettle Run. Second game on the docket here, Bruce. This is a rematch from an earlier season game, actually just a few weeks ago, where Kettle Run went up on the road and beat Warren County. And now it's at Kettle Run. Pressure changes hands. Now on the shoulders here of the Kettle Run Cougars, who came into the season as the favorite to repeat as Division III Region II champs. Can Warren County return the favor, as they say?
Warren County can, but again, this is a game, switches venue, goes back to Kettle Run. Kettle Run, and I'm going to go on history with this game. Sometimes that's not a wise thing to do with high school because turnover is so much. You know, if you look at a program, the really good programs, you really don't come into playing time until you're a junior or senior. So it's constant turnover. So to rely on history and tradition sometimes is tough. But I think in this case, Warren County getting to the top recently hasn't been up at that level in a long time. Kettle Run was in the state championship game last year, and I think that experience spells the difference.
There's a state semifinal game, just to clarify. But you're right. State playoff.
And I'm taking Kettle Run too. Like Bruce said, I think they have the firepower to win this game.
Kettle Run at home. Kettle Run wins the ball game. And boy, Warren County, they were 8-0. How did it go south? Your first round game is Kettle Run. Wow, well, that's what happens when you don't take care of business down the stretch at home. All right, Liberty at Sherando. Sherando hosting Liberty. Beat them 14-6 in the regular season. Liberty has not beaten Sherando since 2004. Buddy Tommy Buzzle is not going to like that stat when he hears that up at Connecticut University, Central Connecticut University. So now it's Sean Finnerty's job to fix the mistakes from round 1 and come up and give Sherando a loss on their home turf. What do you think?
You know, obviously Coach Finnerty is doing a great job at Liberty, has that program on track. They really never got off the tracks. You could say that they started slow, but that's getting used to a new coaching staff. But having said that, I believe Liberty is going to be in the mix year in and year out, just as they have been. But I'm going to go back to buy or sell. This is a case where I think where coaching wins playoff games. You go up to Bill Hall up there at Sherando and play on his turf in the playoffs, it's a whole different ballgame.
And I'm going with Liberty on this one. This was a game that it really could have gone either way for my pick, but since I'm not really in the standings much anyways for picks, I decided I'm not afraid to take Liberty.
You're just gonna pick all the underdogs.
No.
Hey,
not all
smart sometimes.
But I'm picking it in this case and in that case with Robinson. We'll talk about the next couple picks though.
Does he know how many times Liberty, no matter what happened, Sherando, no matter what happened in the regular season, they come back in the playoffs against a team the second time and just thumped them?
It's happened. But
it's happened.
Here's the problem. They're playing without their quarterback, Reed Insminger, who went down to an injury a couple weeks back. They've got a young guy, Josh Ojo, at quarterback, who they found a way to beat MILLBROOK last week and so forth. But the problem is for Sherando, in the first round of the playoffs last couple years, hadn't gone real well. So you wonder kind of what the memory is for the guys up there in Stevens City. But I still got to go with that stat. Liberty hasn't beaten them since 2004. There's something to this game where it's a bad matchup for the Eagles. I'm taking Sherando. I think it's going to be another close game. Woodgrove on the road at Loudoun County. And this is a game that was a wash in the first round. Loudoun County waxed Woodgrove. It wasn't even close. And it was a 5-0 Woodgrove team playing Loudoun County. Loudoun County had just come off a loss to Tuscarora. We were kind of shocked. We thought at least it would be competitive. It wasn't. Any reason, without Tucker Coyle, the quarterback for Woodgrove, not playing now with a broken leg, that this game is competitive. What do you think?
Well, I think it can be competitive because of the size of Woodgrove if they can shut down Loudoun County. But the key for Woodgrove is they're going to have to stop Brad Zoka and Jake Loki playing pitch and catch down the field. That's going to be very tough. And County has a couple of other receivers that they can go to along the way as well, and a pretty decent running game. I don't know that this is going to be a thumping, but I'm going to tell you what, I like County in this one, again, at home.
Josh Sweet, Dulles District Player of the Year, 25 touchdowns on the season. This is a guy they got to have show up big this week, Ben. Who do you like?
Yeah, they're gonna definitely need him. Look for Zoka for Loudoun County to be targeted early. It took them a little while against Briarwoods to find him, and he only had a couple catches in that game. Look for him to just be all over this game. Loudoun County gets.
Yeah, he was the difference in the first round of this one. I mean, he had, I think, 4 touchdown catches. And I'll say this: Woodgrove's going to play a lot better on defense. I mean, they're just going to have to play lights out on defense to stop Loudoun County in this ball game. Loudoun County is going to stop Woodgrove. That's the key here. I don't think Woodgrove is going to win this game because of the injury, and I just don't think they showed enough for me in the first game between Loudoun County and themselves here that would give me any reason to believe it's going to change. So I'm taking Loudoun County at home. Oakton travels on the road in a rematch of last year's playoff game that got a little chippy toward the end of this one here. You talk about storylines now. Lake Braddock hosting Oakton. A lot of love lost here between these teams. Look, it's a great first-round game. You got Kyle Downer, Caleb Henderson, 2 great quarterbacks in the northern region. Lake Braddock riding a 7-game win streak. Oakton kind of trying to find a way to get off the mat. They've kept getting punched down here the last couple weeks here. Do they do it against Lake Braddock? Shock the Bruins. What do you think?
I don't think so. I think it would be a shock. You know, the hill's not going to matter because Oakton has to climb a hill from their school to get to the field. A lot of times you go to Lake Braddock and you get worn out climbing up that hill.
It's at Lake Braddock.
That's what I mean. But you get worn out climbing the hill at Lake Braddock. That's not going to happen at Oakton. But I think Andy has the key right there. Lake Braddock riding that 7-game high and Oakton still trying to find themselves. The playoffs is a tough time to go looking.
This is going to be a fun, physical game. Lake Braddock gets the win.
You know, key stat here for Lake Braddock, their only 2 losses came to Concord District teams. So Oakton, got to feel good about that. You're a Concord team. The only thing you can't feel good about is you haven't had any momentum going into the postseason. Bruce has it right here. Lake Braddock, 7 games in a row, and their quarterback and defense playing lights out. Take the Bruins. All right, moving on to the next one here. MILLBROOK on the road at TUSCARORA. Last time they played, first game of the season for both teams. Noah Reimers, big day. Offensive line for Tuscarora looked like the old hogs of the Washington Redskins. They pushed MILLBROOK around like it was nothing. Any reason to think they're not going to do that again?
With all due respect, Herndon's a Concord District team as well. You know, I said there were...
Ouch. Man, you got to put up with that? You smack him for that right there.
I said there were 2 teams in this list that we were picking that are definitely not on upset alert, in my opinion. Tuscarora, that's one of them. I think they roll.
Hey, Herndon got to win this season. I'll take it. 1-9 on the year.
They're throwing some zingers out there.
Beat my 0 for Patriots, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right.
They're going to turn it around. But for this game specifically, I'm going with Tuscarora.
Yeah, Tuscarora gets their 10th win of the year, and they set up potentially, if Loudoun County takes care of business, a big game next week at their place.
Huge.
All right, next game here, West Potomac at Centerville. Centerville, on the bad end of the first meeting, now has this one at home. And I said this earlier. I feel like Centerville's a different team. They got a lot of young guys, but now they're not so young anymore. They played a full season here. Bruce, any chance West Potomac comes in and beats them a second time?
I think there very much is a chance, but I don't think it's going to happen. I've been a Centerville fan since I did that Centerville Hayfield game. Now, they stumbled a couple of times since that game, but what I saw out of Centerville in that game, if they can bring that game and that team and that effort into the playoffs, they're going to be hard to beat no matter who they're playing. I like Centerville at home.
Cardiac Cats have been magical this season. They continue the magic, and A.J. Turner, absolutely fantastic. They get this one.
Only way the West Potomac wins this game is if A.J. Turner doesn't play. And that's just my opinion. He might be the most valuable player to a team in this area. That's a big statement for a sophomore. That's how good he is. If they put the ball in his hands this week, this one's not close. That's just my opinion. You know, so I'm talking to my buddy Coach Haddock. 25 times and you win by 5 touchdowns. If he only touches it 5 or 7 times, it's going to be a good game. But that's how I see this one going. And the big question mark, DeMornay Pearsonell's health. Got hurt last week. That could be a big problem. Watch that little stat there. All right, Powhatan at Briar Woods. Everybody on the staff here is going to take Briar Woods, okay? But for people that don't know about Powhatan, and it is Powhatan, Bruce, don't say Powhatan.
Or
People
Powhatan.
get really mad.
Some people say Powhatan.
No, you can't say it wrong because you will get text messages and calls from people down in Powhatan County that are really irritated with you. Now, here's what they do bring up to this area. A physical football team. You did the game a year ago. I've seen Powhatan play several times in years past, and they have a brand of football down there that could spell a little trouble for Briar Woods. I still think they're going to wash this game out. But you have to always be concerned about a team that will punch you in the mouth for 4 quarters. That's what they're going to see with the Indians.
Well, yeah, you said Oakton Lake Braddock might be the highest scoring game out there. I think this one might be the highest scoring game out there. I don't think Powhatan is going to put up a whole lot of points. Yeah, they got too many syllables in that word. You know, if you want it said correctly, then spell it the way you want it said. Yeah, Powhatan may punch you in the mouth a few times throughout the season, but I don't think they have the depth to stay with Briarwoods. Briarwoods has taken shots early in games. They've been punched early in the game. And all that does, you know, you get a cat or a bear or something like that backed up against the wall and you tick them off, you better have some armor on and look out because they're going to come out scratching and fighting. And I think Briarwoods, you get in the playoffs, there's too much at stake for them. They are pedal to the metal from here as long as they ride this playoff train. I don't think this is close.
Any chance Powhatan can win this game?
No chance. This Briarwoods team is poised again to make a deep run, and it's going to start right here with this first game, and it's going to be just a complete roller coaster.
I agree with both of you. Nobody should beat Briarwoods. But this is a team, traditionally, that wins playoff games and goes a long way. And even though they're 5-4, whatever it is, 5-5, whatever the key stat here is that makes them a non-threat to Briarwoods, you got to be concerned about them if you're Charlie Pierce. You have to.
You're thinking about softball. That's Powhatan and softball.
Powhatan has always been a great football team.
I agree, softball team.
South County at Madison, maybe the best matchup in the first round Division 5. South County comes limping into the postseason, but not because they haven't won some games here recently, just because their record's not great, but they've been putting up points left and right. Madison was really hot until Stonebridge smacked them a little bit. So now they host South County. Probably the worst team you want to see from an athletic standpoint if you're Madison. South County's got players. Do they beat Madison on their home turf?
You know, I agree with what you just said. From Madison's standpoint, South County is the one team, other than maybe Stonebridge, in this whole tournament that they do not want to see in the first round. I pick on Madison a lot, but I really have been impressed with the way they played late in the season, or this season entirely. But South County, I just think that there's something about them. It's kind of like when they get into the playoffs, it's like that battlefield sort of mystique. South County, you get in the playoffs, it seems like something happens, and they're not always the same as they were in the regular season. I mean, look at the run they made last year. I just like South County. This is my one upset road pick in lower seed in this whole picks.
I haven't been too high on South County this season, but I agree with Bruce. Here in the playoffs, things change a little bit differently. Your mindset about a team changes a little bit differently. And I think Madison's season ends here. I think South County gets that win.
Yeah, I said this on Game Day Final last week. I really feel like this is the one team that can give Stonebridge a problem. And they're going to give Madison a big problem. I'm taking South County. This will be an upset, but not in the minds of a lot of people, including mine. I don't know that would really be an upset when you look at these two teams play. I think South County is going to play like a team that could be 8-2, 9-1. They're going to look like that on the field for Madison, and they are a problem. I think they get the win. It'll be a good game, but I think they get the win. All right, final game. Woodbridge at Battlefield. Boy, this is going to be a slobber knocker right here. Battlefield in the postseason. Woodbridge with a big win over Stonewall. They did what Battlefield couldn't do. They beat Stonewall. Now Battlefield says, come to our place and try it in the postseason. It's on, Bruce. It's on. Woodbridge, they're bringing it on Friday night. Battlefield better get ready.
I did the Battlefield Broad Run game earlier this season, and I like what – I think you made the point earlier in this show tonight that Battlefield – can stop the run. Battlefield is tough up front, and they can play defense. And I think they can score. They got a great quarterback over there. So I like Battlefield at home. Again, another one of those teams that you really don't want to pick against in the playoffs, and I'm not going to do it.
I'm not going to do it either. I'm going with Battlefield here at home.
Woodbridge has nearly beaten Hilton. They've beaten Stonewall, who beat Battlefield, and you can't pick them. You just don't want to pick them.
Not against
Why?
Not against Battlefield.
Athletically, they're a little more athletic than Battlefield. You don't think that matters?
Yeah, of course it matters. You ask me who I'm picking, I'm taking Battlefield.
That's
You're
because
trying to get me to change my pick?
It's because you've been burned so many times. Because Battlefield always proves you wrong. And they will prove me wrong if I pick Woodbridge. They're going to win this game. And they're going to win it based on a couple things. Coaching in the postseason. Mark Cox, nobody does it better. Secondly, they've got experience. And that's a big key here when you get in the postseason. But they've got a big problem with Woodbridge, in my opinion. This game is going to be great. It's going to be a great ball game. Hope you're excited to watch it, because I think I might campaign to go call this game. Should be an awesome one. So that's it for our picks of the week, and that's it for Game Day All Access here during election week. We hope you got your vote in out there. Now you get to see the top 10 plays from last week's action here on the Game Day Broadcast Network. Enjoy the games this Friday. We'll see you next week here on Game Day All Access.
Now let's try for the third time for this Fairfax punt. And no, it's a fake punt. And they do have some running around the left side. First down and then some. Brilliant fake punt executed by Fairfax. He's still on his feet. That's Cavalgian inside the 25-yard line.
Spartans in the single wing situation. Reitzel in the backfield with Davis. Straight handoff, Reitzel. He's got the edge. He's got the gap. He's up the sideline. He's got plenty of space, and he's got Hilberth out blocking. Cuts back at the 40. He's going to be dragged down. No! Trip from behind by number 2, Miles Conley, but not until he got down to the 13 of the Eagles.
Takes the snap.
I wouldn't have done that.
Handoff Wandy up the middle to the 45 to 50. He's at the 45 to 40. 35, 30, still in advance. The foot race. 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, Mike Wandy! That's 63-yard run for Wandy.
Goldsby will hand it off to Weaver. Weaver up the middle. He has some room to run. Up to 40, to 45, still on his feet. To the 45, to 40, to the 30. He has some room. 20, 10, 5. Touchdown, Denzel Weaver. Another long run.
Takes the snap. Handoff on the right end. He's going to be gone. He's going down the 40, to the 35, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown, A.J. Turner! 67-yard run.
Here they come up to the line of scrimmage, 3rd down and 4. There's the snap, handoff to Wilson. He's got himself an opening. There he goes! No one's going to catch him this time. 15, 10, 5, touchdown Rams!
I formation receiver to the right for Goldsby. He's just going to hand off to Weaver. Weaver with a little bit of room. Cuts back across the middle. He's gone to the 30, to the 20, to the 15, to the 10, to the 5. Dives into the end zone. Touchdown Hornets. What a play by Denzel Weaver.
All right, kickoff is headed to Scott. Scott looking for running room around the left side, and he's got a little bit of a break. Nick Scott now to the 40. Takes another hit, and he's still on his feet. Nick Scott may break it. One more man to beat. Scott at the 20, and he's going to go all the way. Touchdown, Fairfax Rebels. Nick Scott.
Up 7-0. Herndon's going to take it at the 12-yard line on the left hash mark. Cutting across the field. He has a little bit of a hole. Up to the 40, to the 45, to the 50, to the 40, to the 30. Touchdown, Herndon Hornets. Nobody's going to catch him. Harrison Craddock does it once again. 88 yards this time for the touchdown. He's running up the sidelines. The Hornets are all over him, congratulating him.
Hurt sets the ball up, kicking left to right here in the first quarter, and there's the boot again. Deep to Natang Tang. This one bounces at the 5. Natang Tang picks it up at the goal line. Slow to come out, but now rushes up the middle to the right side. It's got a hole, and he's free. Across the 40-yard line, only the kicker to beat, and he falls down. There goes Natang Tang to the 20, 10, touchdown, Woodgrove. Attempt Natang Tang, proving why he's a D1 commit.
This exclusive broadcast has been presented by Integrated sports medicine and physical therapy. Get back in the game of life, the game on the field. Manhattan Pizza, now serving Ashburn, South Riding, and Leesburg with the best dang pizza in the world. By Max Muscle Sports Nutrition. Max Muscle, partners in health. By Online Mental Trainer, Optimal Thinking, Champion Results. Visit ReadWriteTechnology.com. Verizon Wireless, the exclusive wireless network of the Game Day Broadcast Network. Gameday All-Access. Become a Gameday MVP member today and never miss another big game. Phenom Strength and Conditioning, where athletes train to exceed expectations. Any reproduction of today's events without the express written consent of Gameday Properties LLC is strictly prohibited. All rights reserved.